Hey, what's up, my friend? Welcome back to the podcast. Thank you, as always, for tuning in today. Super appreciate you. So, what I want to do on today's episode, when I see people who are doing extraordinary things in their business, whether they're running a membership, whether they're running a coaching program or their course, or maybe it's a combination of all of them, I want to bring them to you to kind of unpack what they're doing so that you can learn little bits and pieces, if you will, from what they're doing so that you can apply it to what you've got going in your business. And that's what I want to do on today's episode. I've invited Faye Cornhill, who's one of our accelerator coaching members. And Faye is a business coach in the wedding industry. She's been in the wedding industry for, I think she said like over 13 years. And she runs a very successful membership called the Wedding Club. And specifically, I wanted her to come on and break down how she has, like, what separates her membership from all the other wedding-based memberships out there. Her retention rate, she retains between 96 and 97% every single month. So she has a very, very high retention rate. So she breaks down what she does and to achieve that sort of retention rate and why she has such a high retention rate, including how she uses technology to do that, how she answers every single question that gets asked. And we break down her onboarding process. We really dive deep on that topic in today's episode. We also talk about why and how she launches in her business. She has an evergreen funnel going to the membership. She does an annual event that she leverages to sell people into an annual membership. She does a really good job of running this membership. And this is 95% of her business is this membership. And she only works about less than 20 hours a week, which is what we're all about inside of Accelerator. So without further ado, let's go hang out and break all this down for you with Faye Cornhill. Faye, welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
How the heck are you today?
I'm good. I'm slightly warm. It's quite warm here in England at the moment, but apart from that, I'm doing well.
You're melting right now. You just told me it's like 40 degrees Celsius.
Yes.
And when I was back in the hockey world years ago, I learned this simple formula from all of our Canadian scouts. And they said, basically take Celsius, double it and add 30. And that'll give you a pretty good ballpark of Fahrenheit. So I'm doubling that. That's 80 plus 30 is like 110. Yeah. So I'm thinking like 100 degrees Fahrenheit in the UK.
Yeah,
right now.
and we're not built to withstand that temperature.
Yeah, so I was like, wait, you're sitting in the AC right now, right? You got the air conditioning. You're like, oh no, we don't have air conditioning in the UK.
We have no such thing. A few fortunate people do, but the average Brit does not have AC in their home.
And at the time recording this, at the middle of July, you're gearing up basically for 2 more weeks of this.
Yes, which is really unusual for us, actually. Normally this time of year, we're moaning that it's raining, and now we're moaning that it's too hot. So can't ever please us.
Well, I want to talk about what you're doing with your family in here in a couple of weeks, but because I think that's super, super interesting. In your business, the way that you've set it up allows you to do these types of things. And so I'd love for you to share that in just a second. Before we do, let's have you introduce yourself to my audience here. You're a member of our Accelerator coaching program. I just think the world of you, and you're doing some really cool things in the wedding industry space. So why don't you take it from there?
Great. So my name's Faye Cornhill. I am the founder of the Wedding Business Club, which is an online space membership for people who work in the industry. So anyone from a photographer to a cake maker to a florist. And my background is in the wedding industry. So I started 13 and a bit years ago as a wedding photographer. And over the years, more and more people just kind of asked me, how are you doing what you're doing? Can I pick your brains? And slowly that became my membership, the Wedding Business Club. So we have nearly 600 members, predominantly in the UK, but members all over the world. And it's really funny because my business is now, 95% my membership. And the membership model is the thing that I always said I was not interested in doing. And yet here I am.
Why was that?
Do you know, I always thought it looked a bit fiddly. I thought like higher numbers of people equals higher admin and higher faff factor. And to be honest, it is. There's a lot of admin and there's a lot that goes into the setup, but it's really not been enough to make it not something I love doing. I absolutely love my business. I started in one-to-one coaching, as many coaches. I ran a group program. Sure. I did that 6 or 7 launches of that group program. And, you know, this is the thing that I really love doing. I love the model. I love the accessibility because it's a lower price point. It means that I can help and support more people. So yeah, I'm a happy camper.
It's a pretty normal progression, right? Going from one-to-one to group coaching to then, you know, either a course or a membership style. So you mentioned it's an inexpensive price. What is the monthly price?
So it's £35 a month or £385 for the year. And it didn't start at that price. We started lower. You know, it's nearly 3 years old now. So my first price point was £29 a month. And slowly I've just increased that. It's been a difficult time for my industry. Clearly, you know, the pandemic, I mean, overnight, my industry just closed. So it's been a really difficult time. And I think having that low ticket resource for the members of my community has been invaluable for them because, you know, my group coaching program was up in the thousands and, you know, I wouldn't have had the same platform to sell that from, you know, post-pandemic. I just know I would have struggled with that.
Did you lean into the membership even more during the pandemic?
100%. So yeah, I mean, many days I remember. So I'm in my office. My office is at the bottom of my garden. And I remember for a good stretch, day in, day out, I was in this office firefighting. That, like, I worked so hard during the pandemic. And because my people needed me to, they needed answers like, what are we going to do about this? How do you deal with the cancellation? You know, I've got a client who wants all their money back. What am I going to do? My business is going to go under any second. How do I deal with that? What's the legality? So there was a period of time where I was just firefighting. People just needed somebody to speak to, somebody to ask questions of. And I worked really hard during that period, but also, you know, I loved doing it. I'm very protective of our industry because I've been in it so long myself. And we really do have there's just such an amazing group of people who work in it. I wanted to make sure that they had the answers they needed. And the membership was the best platform I could have given them to answer those questions.
What's the makeup of the membership? So somebody joins the membership, like we'll call it the features of the membership, but also what is the promise of the membership after we talk about the features?
Yeah, so every month we have a specific focus. So in the membership, we have the 4 pillars of success, we call them. So those 4 pillars are mindset, brand, marketing, and business. And every single month we have a focus on one part of one of those pillars. So for example, this month, and some people will be like, what are they talking about? But this month, our focus is all on styled shoots. So a styled shoot is where you basically make a wedding as if it's real, but it's not. And we take nice pictures and then we all use it for our marketing. So that's our focus this month. And we sometimes have guest speakers come and talk to our members about it, but everything kind of comes back to that single focus. Every other week, apart from that, is a Q&A session. And you know what? When I started the membership, I was really dubious about this idea of a Q&A session. I was like, well, are people going to have questions for me? Are they interested in my answers to their questions? And I was so close not to including that. And it really is the most popular part of the membership because people just want their questions answered. People just need an answer to their question. And sometimes it's the easiest thing for me just to give a 5-second answer and it gives people peace of mind. And that has been invaluable to my members, that.
It's interesting that you said I almost didn't include it because I wasn't sure that the members wanted it. For most people, it's the other way around. I almost didn't include it because I don't want to have to show up
Yeah.
live every couple of weeks. For you, it was the opposite.
Yeah.
So I think that says a lot about you and how much you care about the people in the space, in the wedding space, and especially your members of the membership. Is it like a 1 hour call every
It's
2
supposed
weeks?
to be an hour. It's not very often an hour. Very often it's more. You're right. What you said, like I do really care about my people, and I really care about our industry, and I have some very strong beliefs of what constitutes, a good business owner. And that's not just in our space. That's just generally. I have some really
Yeah.
strong views on that. And one of the things that I think we do really well, and I think one of the things that contribute to our high retention rate, is that every decision I make and every move I make in the membership is based on my own values that I have for my life and my business. And the ripple effect of that in a membership space where there are, nearly 600 people listening to everything I say is huge. And I think as somebody who's, for want of a better expression, senior in our industry, I actually think I have the responsibility to teach people, like, this is a good way to run a business that is good for you, that's good for your clients, that's fair, that's win-win for everyone, whilst also, ensuring people are protecting themselves along the way and being
Yeah.
treated fairly themselves.
When did you start the membership?
So October 2019.
So not really long. I mean, 3 years
Yeah.
ago, basically, when we're talking here.
Yeah.
How did you, and how long did it take you to get to 600 members?
So about 2 years.
Meaning, like, was it up and down, or was it like, were you just like a hockey stick growth from day one?
Yeah, kind of somewhere in the middle. I mean, we have people leave, and like, that's the reality of the membership,
Sure.
right? But it's been a steady growth. Like, my growth looks a bit, like that. So it's taken about 2 and a bit years, really. Obviously, the pandemic was kind of a weird time. We had our biggest launch during the pandemic, believe it or not. Because people needed somewhere to go. I think there were other things that were already in existence out there. There were other memberships in the wedding space. But I think the reason it was successful so quickly was that I was doing things different. There was a different promise. So the promise is that I will help people grow profitable and successful businesses without having to compromise on their values.
Mm.
And there's lots of stuff out there for business owners, but there's nothing that breaks it down into those 4 pillars, because in my opinion, they're all equally as important for the members. And we tie everything back to that. Everything we do goes straight back to, these are the 4 pillars. This is the focus. This is what constitutes a successful business. And I know you do the same, Rick, but I tell people, like, you could have 3 out of 4 of these working really well for you. But if you're missing that 4th one, that's going to be the problem for you. So that's where you need to focus. That's where you need to put your effort. And I think that's been a big part of the success of the membership, is that a lot of people just didn't realize that. Oh, I just thought it was about showing up on social media and, like, negotiating with people on price. But there's obviously so much more to it than that.
Sure. Now, the membership, 2.5 years ago, you'd never run a membership before, correct? So again, you went from one-on-one coaching to group coaching to, okay, I'm going to start this membership. You originally thought that it was going to be a lot of, like, more members equals more, administrative work, et cetera, et cetera. But you've had huge success with it. You have great retention, which we're going to talk about here in just a couple of minutes. You have an annual event that you do that we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. You launch it, and you've had a very successful evergreen funnel. So I want to talk to each one of those things here in just a minute. But I'm just curious, why did it click for you pretty much right from the start? Was it really the clarity of, hey, I get what you're going through. I've been there. This is what this program is all about. And speaking through the lens of your values and these 4 pillars of success. I don't want to say that's easy, but was it really as straightforward as that?
Kind of, yes. Kind of. The most difficult thing in the early days was keeping up with the pace because, I'd only ever, the biggest number of people that I'd worked with in a group coaching program was like 15, 20 people. And then suddenly there's loads of different names and loads of faces and this question and this question and this question. So from the very start, I've been really, and I talk about this all the time with my members, but having really clear boundaries of what is part of this membership and what is not part of this membership. So occasionally I've had to go through a bit of a re-education piece with people, if the DMs are flying in, can I ask you this and this and this and this? I have to educate that person that that's not how the membership runs. And sometimes that can be really hard. And I'm a real empath. So when I'm like, oh, please don't think badly of me. But also it's not good for either parties to have that kind of relationship. Like it just isn't. So I had to be really, really hot on that in the early days. I was running this membership entirely on my own at the very beginning, which from an admin perspective was really, really tough. And that moment when I first employed a BA, I was suddenly like, wow, this is amazing. So that was a real game changer. But it was staying in my lane, not trying to recreate something that already existed out there. Like most industries will have a membership of some sort. Like it's a really popular business model. But just staying true to what I believe people needed, what worked well for me and my life. And, I've got 2 kids. I don't want to be sat answering questions 24/7. So, really sticking clear with why I've created this membership and always focusing on the result for my members. And that's how I make decisions. Like, is this going to get a result for my members? Is this going to be good for me and my lifestyle? And if the answer to both of those is yes, then great, we'll do it. And I've innovated every step along the way. Like the membership area that we have today is not what existed in October 2019. It's been through 2 redesigns. We have our, as inspired by you, Rick, we have our members only podcast. We just have so much. And it always comes back to those 2 questions. Does it fit with me and my lifestyle? And is it helping my member get to their end result? And if it is, then I will do it.
All right. So before we talk about retention, your evergreen funnel you're launching, it sounds like you have you have a lot of clarity around this. Like it's very boom, like this is what it is. This is why members like it, etc. I would love for you to share with my what were you looking, you've been an accelerator for a few months now, earlier this year, 2022. What was the goal of joining? What were you looking to get out of it?
Do you know what? I was just in a bit of I was in a season of meh. It was the membership was going brilliantly. I love it. I haven't lost the love for it. But I think things can catch up with you and feel quite heavy. And in the same way that my members need somebody to ask questions of, I was not having there was no one for me to ask questions of. And I'm a real advocate of practice what you preach. So how can I preach to my people? You need to have that hierarchy. You need to have that person where you go and ask questions and gain advice and knowledge and support somebody who has walked through that same journey. And I realized I wasn't surrounding myself with the right people. And I think there's so much to be said for having a group of people where you can just say, I'm struggling with this thing. Can you help me find the answer? It's just so valuable. And if that just tweaks one little thing that you do or changes one thing, and that can snowball into something huge, it's a no-brainer, isn't it?
I'm so glad you bring that up. if it's one little thing. Most people, when they join a program or what have you, or work with a coach or whatever it is, they're looking for like this massive, like huge thing. And because of that, they lose sight of those quote unquote little things that can have huge impacts. Just as an example, I was working with somebody the other day and we came up with the name of their new offer. That's all it was. We're doing a coaching session. The entire session was around naming this offer. And they were throwing around ideas and I already knew what name I loved. But I let them sort of like come up with stuff and everything. And so I said, well, what about blah, 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 right? And they just started laughing. They said, oh my God, that was so easy. And that is a brilliant name. So they left that call with the name and the tagline to describe it. And that might seem like a small thing, but yet that opens up huge potential, right? And so I'm so glad that you see that it just, oftentimes they're just like little things that, as you said so well, Faye, like that could have a big snowball effect
and
on the rest of the business.
I think that's true for any community, whether it's, a mastermind group or a membership, having that sounding board, because most of us, a lot of us have very supportive spouses. Like my husband is so supportive, and every time I go to him with a crazy idea, he's like, yeah, go for it. You'll make it work. I trust you 100%. So I'm really lucky with that. But also he's never worked in the wedding industry. Like he's not a coach. He doesn't know. He doesn't have that personal experience. And I think all good business owners should be surrounded by other people who will help and support and pick you up if you're having a bad day, or just go, yeah, that person over there is being really unreasonable. You stick to your guns. And I do think that's so valuable. I really do. And that's one of the things that I love about the membership model, same as the mastermind model, but just being in that space, like virtually, obviously, where you've got a support network around you. I would have given anything to have that at the beginning of my business. And I was, working as a wedding photographer, sat on my own at my kitchen table, just sort of twiddling my thumbs, not having a clue about what to do next. So it was guesswork.
Your retention is ridiculously high. Do you attribute it to what you just said?
Yes, and lots of things. So our retention rate month on month is 96 or 97%. So it's high, which is really funny because it's all about perspective, isn't it? Because I always feel really sad when we lose members. I've learned to deal with it, and people move on, things change. Yeah, I totally understand that. But I'm really proud of the retention rate, and I think it's a lot of things, and I have to be careful because I'm not very good at like praising my own work here, but I do think it comes down to the values that I hold close to me, and the decisions that I make in the business, and the fact that I genuinely care. Like I don't have to pretend to care, because I really do care about everyone. And it's sometimes really hard, 600 names and faces. I'm actually pretty good at it, but it gets more and more difficult, obviously, the more members you get. But I genuinely care about every single person. And I think a membership is not, any business is not for you if you don't care. But when you've got that high volume of people, it can feel quite watered down as the consumer, as the member. I really do care. I take time to do the small things that I know other people can't be bothered to do. Like no comment goes unanswered ever on my watch. And it will never. Even when I do launches and I have pop-up Facebook groups, no comment goes unanswered. It just doesn't happen. Nobody will be floundering for help and support. There will always be an answer to everything. And I think that means a lot for some people, especially if that's the first time you've ever asked a question in a Facebook group and you're so nervous about asking that, and then tumbleweed. like just to be heard and to be pointed in the right direction, I think is hugely valuable for people. And you can't put a price on that.
So I want to jump in real quick because I can sort of put myself in my listeners' shoes right now and say, well, I care about my students. I care about my members, but my retention rate isn't 96 to 97% every month. What are some other things that you're doing? And they're also saying, well, like if I answered every single comment, I would be working nonstop.
Yeah.
So how have you been able to accomplish that within the structure and framework of, hey, yes, I have this business, but I have a family. I love spending time with them. We go on trips and all this other stuff. Like, how do you fit that into the schedule that you keep?
See, I mean, for me, it's been about evolution of how things work. Just because it works like this at day one, you know, things change. My lifestyle's changed. The age of my kids have changed, et cetera, et cetera. So things like, I'll just pull out a few examples. Questions in a Facebook can go wildly out of control. So I don't want anyone to think that I'm spending 24/7 answering Facebook questions. Absolutely not. But we have this weekly Q&A session, and every single person has the opportunity to submit a question for that session. It's all automated. The email goes out automatically. Do you have a question for this week's session? And then on that session, I sit and I answer all of those questions. So everybody, even if they don't have a question, they feel as though if they did have a question, they could ask it, right? So that's part one. Part two is involving technology to make your offering as good as it possibly can be. So in our members area, people can search for any keyword, for any key phrase, and it will literally instantly take you to every single time I've talked about that thing for every single Q&A call and coaching call we've ever had. And it will take them straight to that point in the video.
How are you doing that?
So I use a software called Searchy.
Yep.
And it's just so useful. So if someone's like, you know what, I've got a question, but I don't want to wait until that weekly Q&A. I'm going to go and look for myself. Let's say they want to know about wedding shows. And if they type in wedding shows, it will take people to every single time I have talked about wedding shows in every Q&A and every coaching call. So it's giving people that instant answer that they need. But also, listen, if you've got other questions outside of that, here's how you submit it. And I will answer those questions every single week. So like, it doesn't have to be that you are on tap 24/7, but just creating that environment of like, I want to help you. And here's the technology that will help you. And here's the process that will help you. Just people feel like, you know, help is there in abundance. And everything I've just said is automatic.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you've created leverage for yourself to have a bigger impact within the membership without adding a whole bunch of hours to your schedule. I mean, our whole thing with Accelerator and what we're all about in my business is you can have a very successful business, and very successful is whatever that means to you, right? 7-figure, 6-figure, whatever it might mean, within 25 hours a week or less working in your business. And you've created leverage through this use of technology. I'm curious, how do you leverage technology in your onboarding process? So somebody joins the membership. This is something that I see, especially this year with our members. Like, this is something that we've really, really worked on, is what does the onboarding look like? Because it so greatly affects retention, right? Like, how is that experience when somebody joins? How easy it is for them to navigate, find what they're looking for, etc. Have you leveraged technology in that onboarding process?
Yeah, I mean, nothing like uber fancy, but there are core things that work really well for us. So they get an email that says like, welcome. And I just keep that email really short, because I personally find an onboarding email that's massive and like, do this and then do that and do that, just it's really overwhelming. So it's a really quick email that tells people how to log in. Like, I'm amazed when I speak to other membership owners, and I'm like, is the first thing you're telling them how to log in? Like, oh, I'm not sure where that's buried in an email. You have to make it abundantly clear. So here's the first thing, like, this is how you log in. And I give them the first task. I say, go and do this. And the thing that they have to do is basically take a quiz in my membership, which helps them understand where they are in those 4 pillars. So we have 0 to 5 rating in each of those. And they basically answer questions to establish where they are. And then that becomes the measurable of the membership. So I see it almost on a weekly basis. People will say, you know, when I joined, I was 1s across the board, and now I'm 3s across the board. Like, who would have thought it? This is a miracle. Amazing. So that becomes the measurable thing. There's also a whole bunch of other stuff. And I have a page in the members area, which is literally, I mean, I should call it War and Peace, because it literally is, this is everything you need to know. And it tells people call times, the links, how to ask questions, the weekly Q&A. And so if anybody ever has any questions, they are directed to that page. And what's really nice is that when I see people asking, where do I find this information? The other members now jump in and say, oh, it's here. And so that they're directing them to that page, which is really, really useful. So that's how we onboard people. The kind of personal touch for me is that I record a video for every single person that joins. So I use Bonjoro. I know there's a couple of different options, and I just record that little video. And I kind of love that I record it in any state I'm in. So if I'm just coming out of the gym and I'm in my gym kit, I'll be like, hey, Sally, it's Faye, and you've just joined us, and I'm so happy that you have. And I tell them basically what to do next. I give them that one action, go and do this thing, and this is how you can ask for help. And that's that. And those videos go down really well.
Well, yeah, I mean, I love that. And especially you give them one thing to do. What's an example? Like, they've just joined. In general, what do you tell them to do? I tell them,
go and take the Success Path quiz. It's always that. Okay. Like, this is your start point, always, because there's a lot of information in my membership. Like, there's a lot of course material. And I know from, you know, working with other membership owners now, that the number one reason that people leave is overwhelm. Like, there's too much, even though it's cheap. Yeah, it's cheap. It's only £35 a month, but I can't make use of it. I'm overwhelmed. There's just stuff everywhere. So if you tell people, listen, you don't have to do all of the things all the time. You just have to do the things that are going to move the needle in your business. So if somebody has done this success path and they know, like, in marketing, you know what? I have got my stuff together in a marketing sense. It's working well for me. It's the other areas. I will tell them, go and cherry pick the content that's helping you in those areas. Don't focus on the thing that's working really well right now. Go and, you know, get your ducks in a row. Focus on the things that aren't working. Put your time into that, because you need all of these things to be working well.
Yeah, so that, I think you answered that question, but I just want to confirm. So when people take the quiz, are you giving them a path specifically based on the result of their quiz?
Yes and no. So they are then directed to our course area where all of the courses are broken down, and they can access them at any time they want. And they're told, listen, go and cherry pick the things for you that work for you. So they're all broken down into those 4 pillars. And then, because here's the other thing, and it's interesting you should ask this. One of the things that I found very early on was a lack of independence from a lot of members. And I want to encourage this concept of independence and making a choice that's right for them. I actually don't want to create an environment of spoon feeding, because that for me is not somebody who's going to stick around for years, because they just constantly, what should I do next? What should I do next? What should I do next? And I talk a lot about that in the Q&A sessions and in our coaching calls. I talk about, okay, well, you know, if you didn't have me to ask that question of, what would you do? What's your instinct telling you is the right thing to do? And then if I wildly disagree, I will say, like, here are the reasons I don't think that's a good idea. But it's your business. You have to make a call on it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do have to offer a bit of tough love because people, struggle to make decisions for themselves. I don't want that for them. I don't want them to feel like they have to be under my wing forever.
Yeah. You all, this is such a huge point that Faye's bringing up here. And this is actually a conversation that I've been having with my team over the past month or so about this exact topic. I mean, in my case for accelerator members, right? And so like teaching, if you've got a membership, if you've got a course, the idea is exactly what Faye is saying. It's like, if we just tell them the answer and just go do this, 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 and this, what is that actually doing? It's not really teaching people to think for themselves and feel like to be empowered to make the decisions in their business. Now, just like what Faye said, it is a case of if they think, okay, I think I should go do this, I'm gonna go do this. And it's like, no, like, no. But it's like, you can share that and why, but it's not like, wait, don't do that, do this, right? This is such an important point. Teaching people to, it's the whole fishing, like,
100%.
Teach a person to fish rather than just give the fish to them.
Yes.
I think all this plays into this amazing experience that we created the membership in such a high retention rate.
I think it does. I think it is the sort of total solution, because I've spoken to a lot of membership owners who are saying like, I'm really struggling. You're not really struggling. What are we doing differently? And they're good people with great business and so much to give. But it's kind of, you've got to find that sort of sweet spot between all of those things for it really to work.
Where do you house the membership?
So it's all housed on my website. I use MemberPress.
Okay.
Which is like the gatekeeper and the payment processor.
Gotcha. So I know that people are thinking right now, okay, great. We get all this. You've got all these members in here. And I just did some math a few minutes ago. You're generating between 20,000 and 25,000 pounds reoccurring a month at the 600 person level. How do you get people into the membership? I know that in June, when we had our retreat in Las Vegas, you had just done a launch, didn't go as well as you'd hoped. How often do you do launches? Let's talk about that. How do you get members into the membership?
So I launch and I have an evergreen funnel. I launch because I really love launching, which I know some people are like, what?
People are like, who are you?
Who is this person I'm switching off? I do. I really love launching. I love the energy of it. I love just meeting new people. I like teaching what I know and what I believe changes businesses. So I really love launching. And this year I launched in January, and I will launch again in sort of September, October time. Being in the wedding industry, the summer period is not a great time to launch. And I gave it a go in May because I think, we had a conversation. If you don't try things, how do you ever know whether they work in business? It's like, sometimes you don't know until you try a new pair of shoes on whether they fit or not. Well, I tried a new pair on in May and they didn't fit so well because May wasn't a great month for me to launch. And we know that now, so that's good. So January works really well because it's, the winter months are typically like hibernation period for wedding business owners. It tends to be, less events. So those months are my key months for launching, and that going forward, I will stick with that. And I use a challenge launch. So I call it the Wedding Business Boot Camp. And we basically have like 5 days 4 of those days, I take them through each of the pillars. So all the time, the whole way through that challenge, I call it a boot camp. I'm talking about the end product. So I relate everything back to something that I'm actually going to sell them in the future. So by the time it comes to day 5, when I'm talking to them about the membership, it all makes sense. Oh, I see now. On Monday, we talked about that pillar. On Tuesday, it was that. And it all ties back in. And I think that's why the launches have worked so well. I haven't really changed the format of that launch since the very beginning. And I've done that about 7 or 8 times.
Because it works.
Because it works. And I'm inherently like, where's the path of least resistance here? I will take that one. And if it works, I'm not going to fix it. So
people love hearing like, okay, I get it. It's the Wedding Business Bootcamp. It's a challenge style launch. Give us like the specifics of it. What day does the launch start?
So day 1 of bootcamp is the Monday. Day 2, day 3, day 4. So we go through mindset, brand, business, marketing, one small element of each of them. So I'm not teaching them how to climb the mountain. It's just to get them on the first rung of that ladder, you know. And then on the Friday, we basically have a session where I bring it all together. So I kind of, everything people say every time, oh, like the penny has dropped. I totally get this now. And I talk about how you might have 1, 2, or 3 of these pillars, and you may be focused on that. If you don't have all 4, you will not run a successful wedding business. Like this is probably the reason you're not successful right now. And most people are like, oh yeah, I get that. And I open cart on that day, on that 5th day,
on the Friday.
And it's really funny because so many people are like, you open cart on a Friday? That's crazy. Well, it works for me. So
I don't think that's crazy.
Yeah. People are like, oh, but the weekend. But actually, it's always worked really well for me. And I close again on the Tuesday. So I have quite a short period of open cart.
Yep.
I learned the hard way. The first time I launched, I opened cart for a week and it felt like the longest week of my life. Then I changed it just the Wednesday. That still felt long. And the Tuesday is just my sweet spot.
I love it. So you do those 2 times a year. You said January and September. So, but you also have an evergreen funnel and that you use to get people into the membership as well. Tell us about that.
So it's a masterclass and it's called, funnily enough, it's called The 4 Pillars to a Successful and Profitable Wedding Business. And the strap line is, gosh, I can't exactly remember the words I use, but I talk about like how these 4 pillars get you to a state of fully booked. Because that's the language my industry use. I need to be fully booked.
Yeah.
And in that masterclass, I walk through, it's very similar to the boot camp.
I was just going to say.
Very similar. Yep. And at the end of that, I open enrollment and people have exactly the same period of time to join and claim a bonus and off they go.
And so Faye brings up a great point here. And I've talked about this before. If you do a challenge style launch or what have you live, and you want to do something evergreen, and you're like, oh, I want to do, and I don't want to do the challenge on evergreen. I want to do a webinar. Yeah. Well, just take what you teach in the challenge and create a webinar out of it. You already done the work.
Yeah.
And so talking about path of least resistance here, that is the easiest thing that you can do to create that evergreen webinar.
I mean, now that is just so key. That it's so I can't even stress this enough. So I'm not going off on a tangent, but it's really important. So I wrote this book. So I wrote a book, and in this,
what's it called for our listeners?
Called I Do: How to Say Yes to Running a Successful and Profitable Wedding Business. And in this book, there are 4 main chapters, and they're my 4 pillars. Like everything leads back to this thing that I teach. And it's like just having that kind of structure and that direction where everything leads back to this is the way I teach the thing I teach has been enormous for me.
Yeah. Your messaging is consistent.
Yeah.
Across the board, whether you're writing a book, whether you are, writing an email, evergreen funnel, live launch,
the content in the members area, everything comes back to that.
Are you running ads directly to the masterclass for your evergreen?
Currently not, but outside of the summer period is a weird one for us because wedding business owners, even my members, are like, oh, I'm not even in a position right now to consume the content. So outside of the summer period, I will, when we're not launching. So what I typically do is run ads for a month in the run up to the boot camp for the live launch. And then a couple of weeks after live launch has finished, then we'll kick into the evergreen.
And when you're running that campaign, you're running ad directly to Masterclass.
Yes.
Do you remember, because I don't remember what it was, but when we first spoke, you mentioned what your conversion rates are in general for your evergreen funnel. Do you recall what they are?
So they're about 20% for the evergreen funnel. And in the live launch, they're 10%.
Can you repeat that again? Because for both, like you all, this is so interesting about what Faye's doing here, because in general, across the board, your evergreen stats are going to be about half what they are for live. Yeah. For Faye, it's reversed.
Yeah.
So around 20% conversion for your evergreen, around 10% conversion live. So there are people right now listening saying, well, why don't you just do more evergreen?
And that very much is on my radar post September launch.
Yeah.
For sure.
So why do you think it's higher for evergreen than live?
I don't know. And I've had some thinking time on this one, and I don't know, because the beauty of and my live launch has had conversion rates of like 15%. I'm just talking generally, like in all of the launches, it's 10%. So I have had that result where it's been higher. And the success of the launch, and even that, like when I tell people 10, 15%, they're like, wow, that's an amazing conversion rate for a live launch.
It is.
And I think it's like that personal, I think it's the space, it's the answering every comment, like we talked about, is making people feel seen, that the reason that's success. So I can really pin that down. But for the evergreen, I don't know. And obviously I'm loath to change anything. I'm like, should I update it? No, don't touch it.
Don't touch it.
It will not be touched.
I mean, it's incredible for cold traffic coming into this funnel on a membership, which generally is harder to sell as to cold traffic, because they see it as, oh, it's a reoccurring payment. I'm skeptical. You get a 20% conversion rate on evergreen. That's awesome. I have two more things I want to cover with you. One of the best ways to increase our lifetime customer value in a membership is to get people to upgrade to an annual membership. You offer the monthly, and I think you said it was like, I'm looking at my notes, like 350-ish pounds for
385.
Annual? 385.
So they basically get a free month.
You do an annual event that you leverage to, one of the things you do with the annual event is to use that to help upgrade people into a yearly membership, and it works really well for you.
It really works.
Can you kind of break down like how you do that?
Yeah. So the first year we did the annual event, it had to be online because of the pandemic. So I wasn't really aware of the power of the annual event until last year, when we finally were able to do an in-person event. And I'm not sure I even had anticipated how many people would have wanted to upgrade, because FOMO is a real thing, and seeing like part of the community come together, I would have struggled with that. Being an accelerator, if only half of the people had got to come to the retreat, I'd be like, oh no, I want to be there. So, and also the proof is in the pudding, right? When we did the annual event last year for the first time in person, I went all in. We went all in. So we had amazing speakers. We had a lovely venue. We fed them, we watered them, we looked after them, we gave them goodie bags. It was the event in my industry that people were talking about. And what I realized was actually, this is a really powerful tool because on its own, as a standalone day, this is worth the annual membership and some. Like the exposure to the guest speakers, the opportunity to chat to me and other members and network with people was absolutely huge. So this year we gave people plenty of notice. Our events in November, and about 2 months ago, we had the opportunity for people to upgrade. And like overnight, we had about 20 people upgrade.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. Super smart.
And like I understand not everybody is in a position or has the personality that is like, I'm all in. I'm very much an all in kind of person. If I see something and I'm like, yes, that's amazing, I will just join the annual. I'll just be like, I'm at that event. It's fine. I'm in. It's amazing. But I understand that some people who don't know me and perhaps more from the evergreen, people that come in through evergreen, like until an hour ago, they might have not even known who I was or like my history or my place in the industry. So they need to just kind of scope that membership out and be a monthly member for a bit to realize this is awesome, to then be in a position to go, I definitely want 12 more months of this.
I love it. So I teased at the very beginning that as we wrap up here, your business has allowed you to create a lifestyle that has a ton of freedom in it. You've got 2 kids. You want to do things with them in terms of experiences, trips, etc. 2 weeks from right now, we're recording this in the middle of July. In 2 weeks, you're taking your family to, how old are your kids?
13 and 11.
13 and 11. You're taking your family to go climb Mount Kilimanjaro.
Yes.
Before we record, you're like, it's 7 days of climbing, 1 day descent.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wait, 7 days of climbing?
I know.
So and the reason that and I was like, that is the most bizarre trip ever, but I actually love it. And so this is really important to you to give your kids these types of experiences, and which your business allowed you to do. So why do you do these types of trips?
Oh, so I mean, there's a couple of things really. So one is that I don't really like stuff like things. I don't have an expensive taste in handbags or watches or cars. I don't have any beef with anyone who does, but it's just not really my thing. It never really has been. The things that I love to spend money on are experiences. So holidays, and not just holidays, but travel, trips, culture. So that's always been really hot on our priority list. And as soon as the kids were able to, we were like, right, we're off. We've traveled quite extensively with the kids so far, and we've done some crazy trips already. And coming out of the pandemic, we knew we wanted to do something pretty meaty. And so we're Googling like ideas for crazy families. And there it was. And
Seriously? That's you literally Googled that?
Yeah. Like adventurous family and holiday.
I love it. And
there it was, like trek Mount Kilimanjaro, which is the world's highest freestanding mountain. And it's the highest mountain in Africa. And so, anyway, it's a biggie. And so the second we saw it, I had that sort of feeling of, oh God, now I've got to do it because I've seen it. And I have that constant battle with myself in life. I have that in business as well. Like, oh, I know this is going to be epic and I've got to do it because it's going to be brilliant, but it's going to be hard. And we're just kind of like that as a family. So coupled with the fact that during lockdown, we started a charity. So I've always had this idea that I wanted to use my skills in the world of photography to teach underprivileged children the art form of photography, because photography is an expensive hobby. Like it just is. It's not accessible to all children. But I also think, not every child can draw, not every child can paint. Like, I'm terrible at painting and drawing, but I just love photography. So in the pandemic, we started our charity Lives in Focus, and we are going to be offering workshops to kids all over the world, Tanzania included, which is where Mount Kilimanjaro is, to teach them photography. And not just that, we're going to sell their artwork to raise money for local charities, with the idea that these kids can learn that they can break free of what is expected of them. You know, a lot of these kids will become a rice farmer because their dad and their grandfather and their great-grandfather, and that's what they've always done. But we would like to show children that there are ways to be financially independent in life through their creativity. So it's called creative poverty, like these kids who just never have the chance to even try photography or try anything like that. And we're gonna run workshops. So we've raised a nice amount of money for our trek, and hopefully some more along the way. But that's why we're doing it, because we're mad and we want to raise some money.
I love it. I love it. So cool. So cool. Well, I want to make sure that people can connect with you, Faye. Whether they're in the wedding business or not, I think you're an amazing person to connect with and learn what you're doing. What are all the ways? And if people listening right now are in the wedding space, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to join the wedding club. What are the best ways for them to connect with you?
So I mainly hang out on Instagram. On Instagram, I'm just Faye Cornhill, Faye with an E, Faye Cornhill. So come and find me there, send me a message. I love, in recent months, I've spoken to so many membership wannabes or membership business owners who are like, hang on, how are you doing that thing? So if that's anyone that's listening and they want to pick my brain, like, send me a message. I'd love to chat. I'm obsessed with the business model that I thought I was going to hate. So
careful what you wish for. I have a very passionate audience, Faye.
I genuinely, I think this way of running my business, and we haven't even gone there, but I do not even work 20 hours a week. So just to put that out there, I used to, when I was doing all of the other things in my business. It has changed my life immeasurably, and it's affording me to do the things that are really important. So if anyone wants to chat about that, let's do it.
I love it. Y'all, when you reach out to Faye, just let her know that you heard her on the podcast here. And I challenge you to reach out to Faye. I've had people tell me in the past guests, they say, I have been on a lot of podcasts, but never before have I gotten so much outreach from your audience.
I know.
And that's because I have the best audience ever. So reach out to Faye on Instagram. Faye, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate
thank you, Rick.
Hey, my friend, if you are interested in learning more and applying to our accelerator coaching program, we take a few people each month into the program. Now, this is a coaching program, one-on-one coaching, group coaching, and a mastermind experience for established course creators. Maybe you've got a membership, maybe you're a coach, right? And we are all about helping you grow and scale your business and impact while you are working no more than a 25-hour work week, right? This is all about helping you create the revenue, the financial independence for you and your family, and the impact within a not so normal work week for you, giving you the freedom to do whatever it is that you want. I know that sounds cliche, but that's exactly what we help our members do inside of Accelerator. So if you're interested in learning more and filling out application for it, just go to, and we've really simplified the application process. So if you've gone to the page before and you're like, I really want to apply, can't take the time right now, encourage you to go back there and check it out. So just go to rickmulready.com/accelerator, rickmulready.com/accelerator. All right, my friends, thank you as always for tuning in today. Super appreciate you. Until the next episode, be well, my friend, and I will talk to you soon.